Kael'thar was not a world for the faint-hearted. The air itself seemed hostile, thick with the tang of metallic storms and the spores of carnivorous flora that thrived in the dense, shadowed jungles. The ground was alive with danger, creeping tendrils of venomous vines and burrowing predators lying in wait. Even the rivers, swift and churning with crystalline waters, teemed with razor-finned hunters that leaped at anything warm-blooded. To live here was not merely to survive but to conquer. The Thraxxians had done so for millennia. Towering insectoid beings with serrated exoskeletons as tough as Kael'thar's obsidian cliffs, they were built for dominance. Their hive minds provided unerring coordination, their mandibles capable of crushing bone. Every claw, every segment of their being, was a weapon honed by the relentless evolution of this cruel world. To them, life was war, and war was life. Kael'thar's unforgiving nature had shaped them into apex predators who viewed themselves as the masters of all they surveyed. The Thraxxians' arrogance was not without reason. The other species that had once called Kael'thar home were little more than bones scattered in the dirt, relics of weaker creatures who couldn't withstand the unyielding trials of the planet. The Hive Queen, Sarsalith, often spoke through the hive mind of their divine right to rule. Kael'thar bows to the strongest she would echo across the consciousness of her subjects, and none questioned it. None dared. That belief, unshaken for eons, was tested the day the invaders came. I remember the first sight of them vividly, for it defied every expectation. The soft skins descended from the sky in gleaming vessels that reflected the violet storms. Their crafts landed not in secret but boldly, carving swaths of destruction into the jungles to clear space for their operations. The Thraxxians observed from the safety of the canopy, curious and contemptuous in equal measure. The newcomers were frail by Thraxxian standards, their flesh unarmored and their movements lacking the precision of a hive mind. Yet they didn't behave as prey. Instead of scurrying away from danger, they confronted it with bizarre tools that spat fire and light. They wore strange suits that encased their fragile forms, allowing them to walk through the acidic mists unharmed. The first real test came within days. A pack of shadow beasts, one of Kael'thar's deadliest predators, descended upon the human settlement at dusk. The creatures moved with predatory precision, their needle-sharp teeth and bone-crushing jaws promising swift annihilation. But the humans were ready. They didn't flee or cower, they fought with a ferocity that rivaled even the Thraxxians. Their weapons roared, their flames engulfing the shadow beasts in deadly bursts. It wasn't just the tools they wielded that impressed, it was their audacity, their refusal to submit to a threat they'd never faced before. As the last shadow beast fell, its lifeless body collapsing amid the human structures, a ripple of unease spread through the hive mind. For the first time, we questioned what we had seen. These were not the weak intruders we had anticipated. They were something else entirely, something dangerous. The humans were not what we had expected. Fragile, soft-skinned creatures with none of the natural defenses Kael'thar demanded of its inhabitants, they should have been annihilated within days. Yet, to the Thraxxians' growing bewilderment, they thrived where others would have fallen. At first, the Hive observed from the shadows, watching their every move with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. Their initial attempts to settle were met with immediate resistance from the planet itself. Vicious storms tore at their flimsy shelters, and predators circled their camps, eager to pick off the weakest. But the humans adapted with a speed that defied understanding. Their tools were unlike anything the Thraxxians had ever seen. Strange devices emitted bursts of light that drove back Kael'thar's predators. Others pulsed with energy that created barriers, invisible walls that even the most aggressive creatures could not penetrate. The humans carried small machines that analyzed the air, the soil, even the creatures around them, providing information they used to adapt their strategies. They were fragile, yes, but their intelligence more than compensated for their physical weaknesses. It wasn't just their tools that made them formidable. The humans worked together in ways that seemed chaotic but somehow always led to success. They argued, debated, and disagreed, a stark contrast to the seamless unity of the hive mind. Yet, their diversity of thought produced results that the Thraxxians could not anticipate. One incident still stands out in my memory. A group of humans had ventured into the jungle to gather resources, unaware they had wandered into the hunting grounds of a Thraxxian patrol. Our warriors, eager to test the strength of these newcomers, moved in for the kill. The humans were surrounded, their fragile bodies no match for our razor-sharp claws and overwhelming numbers. Or so we thought. The humans didn't panic. Instead, they responded with an efficiency that sent a chill through the Hive-Mind. One of them, a female with a strange device strapped to her arm, unleashed a blast of energy that disoriented the Thraxxian warriors. Another human, armed with what appeared to be a crude projectile weapon, targeted the vulnerable joints in our exoskeletons, exploiting weaknesses we hadn't even realized we possessed. The fight was short but decisive. The humans didn't just defend themselves, they won. As the surviving Thraxxians retreated, their thoughts filled with confusion and a tinge of fear, the humans regrouped, treating their wounded and securing their territory. The Hive-Mind was unsettled. For the first time, we had encountered a species that not only resisted Kael'thar's challenges but fought back with ingenuity and determination. These humans were different from anything we had encountered before. They didn't just survive, they conquered. The Hive Queen's voice resonated through our thoughts that night, sharp with concern. They are not prey, they are something else. Watch them closely. And so we did. But the more we observed, the more we realized that these creatures, so unlike ourselves, were rewriting the very rules of survival on Kael'thar. It was inevitable that the humans and Thraxxians would clash directly. The Hive had grown increasingly restless, their pride wounded by the humans' audacity to claim a place on Kael'thar. While the Hive Queen's directives called for observation, the younger warriors, eager to prove their strength, viewed the humans as an insult to Thraxxian dominance. The first confrontation came under the canopy of the glimmering spires, a dense jungle where phosphorescent plants bathed the area in an eerie, greenish glow. A human expedition, small and seemingly vulnerable, moved cautiously through the terrain, unaware they had entered Thraxxian hunting grounds. It was the perfect opportunity for the Hive to demonstrate its superiority. Kael'thar, a newly ascended Thraxxian warrior, took the lead. He had trained for years to earn his place in the Hive's elite hunting caste, and saw the humans as nothing more than a test of his skills. The ambush was swift and brutal, executed with the precision only a Hive-Mind could achieve. Kael'thar and his group descended from the trees in synchronized strikes, aiming to overwhelm the humans before they could react. But the humans did react, and they reacted with a speed and coordination that stunned the Thraxxians. The lead human, a male with a device slung over his shoulder, shouted a series of commands in their guttural language. Almost immediately, the humans formed a defensive perimeter, weapons raised. Kael'thar lunged, his claws gleaming in the bioluminescent light, but his strike met resistance. A human had anticipated his attack, raising a shimmering energy shield that absorbed the blow. Before Kael'thar could recover, a second human counterattacked. A small, handheld weapon emitted a sharp crack as a projectile slammed into the joint of his leg, forcing him to stumble. Pain lanced through his body, a rare sensation for a Thraxxian warrior. It was humiliating. The fight turned chaotic as the humans deployed devices that blinded the Thraxxians with flashes of light and bursts of sound. Kael'thar struggled to regain control, but the humans' tactics were unlike anything the Hive had encountered. They didn't fight as a single unit, bound by a shared consciousness, but as individuals, each adapting and reacting in ways that defied prediction. By the time the skirmish ended, Kael'thar had been forced to retreat, his pride in tatters. 3 Thraxxians lay incapacitated, their powerful exoskeletons pierced by human ingenuity. The humans, remarkably, had suffered only minor injuries. The Hive-Mind was thrown into turmoil as Kael'thar relayed his report. The humans had not only survived but turned what should have been a decisive Thraxxian victory into a humbling defeat. Their use of strategy, technology, and sheer audacity was unlike anything Kael'thar had ever seen. For the first time, whispers of doubt began to ripple through the Hive. The humans were not prey, nor were they simple invaders to be eradicated. They were a force the Thraxxians did not yet understand, and the Hive Queen's decree came swiftly. They must be studied, and if necessary, eliminated. The humans were no longer a curiosity or an annoyance. They had become a threat. Their ability to adapt, fight, and claim territory challenged everything the Thraxxians believed about their dominance. The Hive Queen's decree to study them had been carried out in earnest. Scouts observed the humans from the shadows, noting their patterns, their tools, and their apparent weaknesses. Yet, the more we watched, the more unsettling the picture became. They were builders, not just survivors. The camps that had initially been little more than temporary shelters had transformed into fortified outposts. Using strange machines that hummed and sparked, the humans carved through the jungle, clearing spaces that seemed impervious to regrowth. They harnessed Kael'thar's volatile resources, converting poisonous plants into medicine, harvesting crystals from deep caves to power their devices, and even capturing some of the smaller predators to study or tame. But what truly unsettled the Hive was their unpredictability. Unlike the Thraxxians, who operated under the strict coordination of the Hive-Mind, the humans functioned as a chaotic network of individuals. They argued, challenged one another, and often acted independently of any apparent leadership. This chaos should have been their undoing, yet it seemed to make them stronger. It became clear during one particular incident, which I observed from the shadows. A human outpost had come under attack by a pack of Kael'thar's apex predators, massive creatures with scaled hides and jaws powerful enough to snap bones like twigs. The humans responded in ways no Thraxxian could have predicted. They didn't retreat or call for reinforcements. Instead, they set traps crude at first glance but ingeniously effective. Spiked barricades forced the creatures into narrow choke points, where explosive charges hidden beneath the ground incapacitated them. Humans armed with specialized weapons moved quickly, exploiting every opening. One of the creatures breached the defenses, breaking into the human camp. In any other circumstance, this would have been a death sentence. Yet the humans didn't falter. A single soldier, a female wielding a glowing weapon that pulsed with energy, engaged the beast head-on. She didn't match its strength, but used her speed and precision to outmaneuver it, striking at weak points until it collapsed. The humans celebrated their victory not with arrogance, but with determination. Within hours, they were repairing their defenses, dissecting the fallen creatures to learn more about them, and refining their strategies for the next encounter. The Hive-Mind was uneasy. The humans were not just surviving Kael'thar, they were bending it to their will. The Queen's voice echoed through the collective consciousness. They must be stopped before they grow too strong. Yet, even as warriors prepared for conflict, some of us began to question. If the humans could thrive here, in a world that had crushed countless others, what did that say about their nature? Were they conquerors or were they something more? As I watched them from the safety of the shadows, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were facing not just an enemy but a force that might one day surpass even the Hive. The storm that loomed over Kael'thar was unlike anything either the Thraxxians or the humans had ever seen. Dark clouds churned across the sky, spiraling with a ferocity that bent the jungle's towering trees and sent waves crashing across the land. Lightning cracked incessantly, illuminating the landscape in violent bursts, while the air itself grew heavy, charged with an unnatural energy. The Hive-Mind rippled with unease as reports poured in. The humans, ever industrious, had already begun to prepare. Their camps, now reinforced outposts, buzzed with activity as they fortified walls, distributed resources, and secured their equipment against the coming cataclysm. We observed from the shadows, curious but dismissive. To us, the storm was merely another trial of Kael'thar, a test of strength and endurance that the Thraxxians had weathered many times before. Then, something unexpected happened. A human emissary approached one of the outer hives, alone and unarmed, her steps purposeful yet cautious. She wore armor that glinted dully in the storm's dim light, but her face was visible, her expression calm. The Thraxxian warriors tensed, ready to strike, but the Hive Queen's voice echoed through their minds, "Wait." The emissary stopped just short of the Hive's entrance, raising a device to amplify her voice. "We know the storm threatens us all," she began, her tone steady but firm. "We cannot survive it alone. But together we can. We propose an alliance for now, and only for survival." The Hive-Mind buzzed with debate. The idea of working with the humans was abhorrent to many. They were invaders, interlopers who had dared to claim what was ours. Yet the storm was no ordinary challenge. It was a force so immense that even the Hive Queen, in her wisdom, recognized the potential cost of facing it alone. Her decision came swiftly. The humans' proposal was accepted not out of trust, but necessity. What followed was unlike anything I had ever witnessed. Humans and Thraxxians worked side by side, pooling their knowledge and resources. The humans shared their technology, deploying machines that could predict the storm's movements and fortify structures against its wrath. The Thraxxians offered their unmatched strength and endurance, hauling massive debris to create barriers and trenches to divert floodwaters. There was tension, of course. More than once, a misunderstanding nearly led to violence. Yet when the storm finally struck, there was no room for enmity. The winds howled like living things, tearing at the land with claws of fury. Rain fell in sheets so thick it was impossible to see more than a few paces ahead. Together we held the line. Human engineers adjusted fortifications in real time, shouting commands as Thraxxian workers executed them with unrelenting precision. Hours stretched into an eternity, but when the storm passed, the land, though scarred, remained intact. In the aftermath, as silence returned to Kael'thar, something had shifted. For the first time, humans and Thraxxians didn't look at each other as enemies. In those harrowing hours, we had learned that survival wasn't just about strength, it was about unity. The storm left Kael'thar changed, and not just in the physical sense. The land bore the scars of its wrath, trees uprooted, rivers rerouted, and cliffs crumbled into the earth. But it was the people, human and Thraxxian alike, who felt the deeper impact. For the first time in our shared history, there had been no battle for dominance, no clash of claws against steel. There had only been survival achieved together. In the days following the storm, an uneasy peace settled over the land. The humans returned to their settlements, repairing their structures and cataloging the damage, while the Thraxxians retreated into the jungles to tend to their own. Yet the bond forged in the storm's crucible lingered, a thread of connection that neither side could entirely sever. The Hive-Mind was conflicted. Many among us still viewed the humans as invaders, their presence an affront to our ancient claim over Kael'thar. Others, however, began to see them in a new light. They were resilient, resourceful, and most unsettling of all, capable of forming connections outside their own kind. I was one of those who could not let go of what I had witnessed. Watching the humans work side by side with Thraxxians, shouting encouragement and offering aid without hesitation, had stirred something unfamiliar within me. For so long, we had believed ourselves to be the pinnacle of life on Kael'thar, the ultimate survivors in a world of death. But the humans had challenged that belief. Their strength was not in their weapons or their technology, though both were formidable. It was in their spirit, their unyielding refusal to succumb to the odds. They faced Kael'thar's dangers not with fear but with determination, adapting and evolving in ways that the Hive could only marvel at. The Hive Queen summoned her advisors to discuss the path forward. The humans were growing stronger, their settlements expanding and their influence spreading. Yet, they had not moved to attack us since the storm. This restraint puzzled and frustrated many of the warriors, who saw it as a sign of weakness. They bide their time, one of the advisors argued. They wait until they are certain they can overpower us. Or perhaps they see no need for war, I countered, my thoughts rippling through the collective. It was a bold statement, one that drew the ire of many. You speak as though they are equals, another advisor hissed, their mandibles clicking in disdain. Perhaps they are, I replied, the weight of the truth settling over me even as I spoke it. They have proven their strength, their ingenuity. They have survived Kael'thar as we have. Perhaps survival here is not about domination but coexistence. The Hive Queen's thoughts were unreadable, her presence a quiet storm in the Hive-Mind. Finally, she spoke, her words resonating with a gravity that silenced all dissent. We must learn from them. Watch, listen, and understand. Perhaps there is more to survival than we have known. And so, the Hive's directive shifted. We would no longer see the humans as enemies to be eradicated, but as a force to be reckoned with, and perhaps something more. The sun rose over Kael'thar, painting the jagged horizon in shades of violet and gold. The storm scars were still visible, trees uprooted, rivers swollen, and jagged cliffs fractured. Yet life persisted. The humans, ever industrious, were already rebuilding their settlements, their strange machines humming as they shaped the land to their needs. From the shadows, we Thraxxians watched, our once unwavering hatred tempered by something foreign and difficult to name. It wasn't just their resilience that unsettled us. It was their curiosity, their drive to understand. Where we had long accepted Kael'thar as an endless struggle for dominance, the humans seemed intent on uncovering its secrets. They studied the flora and fauna with relentless dedication, cataloging the planet's lethal diversity not just to survive but to thrive. But what truly set them apart was their willingness to reach out. In the days after the storm, emissaries began to appear near our hives, not with weapons but with gifts, tools, resources, even food. They came unarmed, vulnerable, and yet they radiated an unshakable confidence that disarmed even our most battle-hardened warriors. At first, these gestures were met with suspicion. Gifts were accepted but never reciprocated. Emissaries were allowed to leave unharmed but were shadowed by scouts, their every move reported to the Hive-Mind. Yet the humans persisted. They spoke of peace, of cooperation, and most bafflingly, of friendship. The Hive Queen observed all this in silence, her thoughts guarded as she considered the humans' actions. Her advisors remained divided. Some saw the humans' overtures as a ploy, a cunning strategy to lull us into complacency. Others, however, began to wonder if there was truth in their words. The turning point came when one of our hives was attacked by a massive swarm of void crawlers, Kael'thar's most feared predators. These creatures were relentless, their numbers overwhelming, and their venom capable of dissolving even the toughest exoskeletons. The hive's warriors fought bravely, but it was clear they were losing. Then the humans arrived. Without hesitation, they joined the fray, their weapons blazing as they cut through the swarm. They moved with precision, their strange devices neutralizing the void crawler's venom and sealing breaches in the hive's defenses. It was an act of selflessness we could scarcely comprehend. They had nothing to gain and everything to lose, yet they fought alongside us as if our survival was as important as their own. When the battle ended, and the last of the void crawlers lay dead, the humans didn't demand thanks or payment. They simply nodded, their leader a young female with a fire in her eyes saying only, "We help because we can." The Hive Queen's voice filled our minds later that night, her tone one of rare solemnity. These humans are not like us, yet they have shown us something we have forgotten. Strength is not just in dominance but in unity. Perhaps survival on Kael'thar requires more than a single species can achieve. From that day forward, everything changed. The humans and Thraxxians began to work together, not as enemies or even allies, but as partners in the struggle to thrive on this unforgiving world. Together, we discovered something neither of us had known: the power of coexistence, forged in the fires of adversity.